Good morning, men. I want to take a few moments real quick just to get us started. My name is Judy Buffington. This is my 19th year in pro audio. Started in 1998, and I'm just very passionate about what I get to do. I've been in radio, I've been in recording, I've been in service and installs, and then of course for 17 years I've done the sound at our church, Southwest Baptist Church. So that's who I am. The section that we're going to talk about today is going to be something I'm very passionate about. I would say it's the heart of your sound system. If you'd say the heart is the seat of emotion, then I'm going to say the mixing console is the heart of the sound system. That's where...
Okay, speaking of the quality, I think we're having cutting out issues. Can you change the channel on the lapel?
Yeah. It's amazing. We tested everything. We were up here at midnight last night, still testing it, and everything was A-okay, and this morning we have to change out a wireless router, and now we're changing out a channel on the wireless mic. Jonathan, how are we doing? My counterpart at Southwest, the guy that does the video and then the audio recordings, Jonathan Scruggs, he's back there in the back today. He is my right-hand man at Southwest, and I'm sure he would say I'm his right-hand man at Southwest. So here we go. Let's get started. We're going to talk about two things today. My morning session is called Learning the Art of Mixing. Our afternoon session will be Applying the Art of Mixing. Now, here's a little twist we're going to do on this. This is how I learned the art of mixing, and then this afternoon I'm going to show you how I learned to apply the art of mixing. Again, I told you if our heart is the seat of our emotion, then our mixing console is going to be the heart of the sound system, because that is the one spot that I can put my influence, my style, my personality into the sound system. If my fingers are on the faders, I'm touching every part of the audio that goes through our sound system. So if you're in a church of any size that relies on a sound system, your sound man is manipulating, is influencing the sound, good or bad. So that's why I say this is the heart of the sound system. In our two sessions that we're going to do today, I want you to look at this through two filters. Filter number one, this is according to Judy Buffington. There's a term in acoustics that we call psychoacoustics. It's, according to me, a model in your ear would be a different way to look at it. My past, my history, my likes, my dislikes, my style, my passion, all goes into who I am, and then I try to put that into my mixing. So everything I'm going to talk about today is according to Judy Buffington. So what I want to encourage you guys to is, if you enjoy my style, learn how I do stuff. If you don't enjoy my style, well, you have 2.5 hours today of what not to do when you go back home. So you can look at it two different ways. Secondly, this can be applied to you. If you're the sound man, if you're the music director, if you're the janitor, what I'm going to talk about today and what I want to try to get across today, it can be applied to you in a very unique way. I want you to be passionate about your craft. I want you to give it everything you got. I want you to pour your personality, your life, your soul into it. Make it yours. And then as you're doing that, serve the Lord with everything you have. Last night when Brother Gibbs sang at the church, Brother Gaddis kind of alluded to, we don't have that style of music at our church very much. But Brother Gibbs, in such a unique way, connected with everybody in that gymnasium. It was powerful. It was rich. And at first, it was just like it just drew us in, and we were listening, we were focused. It's because his heart was in it, his passion, it was his craft, and he was communicating. So it goes to show you, it's not all about your technical skill as much as it is your heart. Are you communicating? Are you giving it your all, or is this just for show? So if I can help get that across to you today, to be passionate about your craft, your trade, your career, to be like a craftsman or a tradesman, that's what I want to try to get across today. So on the screen on the left, we have what's called the Reuben Vase. Everybody's seen these before. When you look at it, what do you see? Do you see a guy looking into a mirror? Is that George Washington looking into a mirror? Do you see a vase? Do you see two men looking at each other? On the right, do you see Idaho? Do you see Montana? Do you see the number 3? Or do you see a weathered man bowing his head? When I look at that, especially on the right, I see Montana. but that's because I spent the first 19 years of my life in Montana. So that's what I want to try to get across. This isn't gospel. It's not this way and no other way. There's a bunch of different ways that we can arrive at the same end goal, but it just has to do with your style, your personality, who you are, how passionate you are, the things you like, the things you don't like. So this lesson is how I learned the art of mixing. "17 years ago this summer, somewhere in Southeast America, Jason Jett and I were driving down the highway in a blue Ford van. I have no idea where we were, but I'll never, ever forget this day. We were listening to this CD right here. It's Still the Cross. We were going through the songs, and we got to song number 9, and God cried.
God cried, Jesus is alive, Son of God is risen, death is crucified, the grave could not contain him, no stone could hope to hide. And God cried, God cried, God cried, and God cried, Jesus is alive.
So as I'm driving down the road, Jason's sitting right near her, and he said, "Man, I just love that song. I love what the alto did. Did you hear the alto?" "Well, no, not really." He said, "Let's listen to it again." So we rewound it. It's like, here's the alto right here. Listen to the alto.
No stone could hope to hide. And God cried, God cried, God cried, and God cried, Jesus is alive.
He said, "Did you hear it? Did you hear the alto?" "Well, I think so." He goes, "That's Aaron Stephen. I just love the way she's doing that move in the last chorus and the way the engineer mixed it." Let's listen to it. We got to listen to it again. Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Focus in on this. Here's the alto part.
God cried, and God cried.
I said, "I think I hear it. I think I hear it." "Well, let's listen to it again because I just love what the alto's doing. Let's do it again one more time." Here it is right here. Turn it up. Are you hearing the alto part? It's something that's in there that I really never noticed before. And to this day, 17 years removed, I cannot listen to that song without hearing that part and going back to that day somewhere in Southeast America in a blue Ford van listening to that song over and over and over. The alto's name was Aaron Stevens, so that's the part that she was singing. So here on sheet music is that last chorus, so the section that we talked about. I've highlighted what she was doing. So you can see her moves on your alto line right here. So if you're from Arkansas, that is the alto line right there.
Glad you pointed that out.
You're welcome. You're welcome. What is she doing? She's doing something, and I don't read music. So here's where I really want you to focus in. I could lose some of you if you don't understand music, but I don't read music. So I have to have my wife and I have to have people help point these things out to me. So everything that I'm going to tell you about today, I would be on the beginning side of reading music or understanding. But what Aaron was doing was what we'd call a non-chord tone. In music, non-chord tones or ornaments or embellishments are music flourishes that are not necessary to carry the overall line of the melody or harmony, but serve instead to decorate or ornament that line. That would be a non-chord tone. I think construction, okay? So let's take a look at this room right here. This is what we call the stage room. The stage room has a very specific purpose. It has a stage. So if we think about this room, what is our focal point of this room? It's the stage behind me. That's it. So what do we need in here? We need 4 walls, we need a ceiling, we need a floor, and we need a stage. That's all we need. That's it right there. That's a basic stage room. But yet in this room, we've done a few embellishments. We've decorated it a little bit. We've put blinds on the windows. We have a vinyl baseboard. We have cam lights. We have fluorescent troffers if we want. We have track lights. We have down lights for the stage. We hung extra stage lights in here for this presentation. We even have an accent wall on the very back of the stage that's painted a different color. We got a grand piano with the lid open. That grand piano is sitting on a rug that permanently has dents where that grand piano is sitting. Do you see? These are all embellishments that help define the focal point of this room. The focal point is the stage. So in music, that's what that alto, Erin Stevens, was doing. She was helping to embellish or decorate that chorus. It's not necessary because the lead is the soprano, and the lead can carry the whole thing and get the message straight across, but she was helping decorate. So here's some examples of non-chord tones. You don't have to get this, you don't have to understand it, you don't have to be able to read music to understand there's stuff going on back there. Escape tone, passing tones, suspension. Brother Gibbs, how do you say that middle word? I've been practicing it all morning. Appoggiatura. That sounds very Italian.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
What Aaron was doing on that song was a suspension. But it wasn't your regular suspension. We'd call it a embellished or a modified suspension. So those are some examples of non-chord tones that are happening in music all the time that we don't even know about, we don't even realize, but yet if we were to strip those out of the music, it'd be very boring, very simple, very focused. So I want to try to get you to look at this through photography. These pictures I haven't taken, but these pictures will tell a good story. In this picture, what is the focal point of this picture? The first lemon. Why is that the focal point, Caleb? It's what's in focus. Okay? That's what's in focus. So the photographer wanted that first lemon to be the focal point. So if we look at everything else in the picture, we can see grass, we can see bushes, maybe a small tree line, there's a table, we see the light of the outside. Those are all embellishments. Those are all helping define the space that that lemon is in. And you can see that we have lemons going behind it as they're getting smaller and they're getting further out of focus. So we would say the lead in this picture is the first lemon. How about this picture? The first flower up front. That's the lead. We have a field of flowers behind that are helping shape or give definition to the space, kind of give it context of where is that flower. We've got a tree line in the back, maybe a small homestead or a farm in that tree line. How about this? This is real easy right here, very simple. The focal point of this picture is the centerpiece of that flower. Same flower, but different angle. Changes the meaning, but we still have the focal point on that flower. Now let's look at this one. What's our focal point in this photo? Sunset. So here, Caleb, the focal point is way back. So it's not what's closest to the lens of the camera. And this is a real simple photo. The sunset, that sun is our focal point. And then we have the silhouette of the mountains highlighting it. We have the clouds starting to glow orange, just giving texture, giving richness to the picture. Just very simple. Here in this photo, we would say the lead or the focal point would be that tree line. Okay, very simple. And if we start to look a little bit deeper, we see sun peeking through. So we would say maybe this might be sunrise or sunset with the way the light's coming through the trees. It's probably a pretty cold day because it looks like there's a good amount of snow on the ground, and those trees are weighed down with snow. How about this one? Our focal point is that needle or that branch or that part of that bush. And if we're to really look at this, we look at what's behind it, we'd probably say that that is raining. It's the way the picture's blurred, it's raining. So if it's raining, we'd say it's going to be cold and damp feeling. And then if you look at that needle or whatever that is, we'd say that that thing's probably pretty saturated with moisture, where it's drooping down, it just can't handle much more. I love this photo. Again, our lead or our focal point is further back in this picture, but it's really definite. Where our eye goes to first of all in this photo is that horse. What a nice picture. Here's a simple focal point. It's the window. That window can tell a story. So how can we take a two-dimensional object or just a photo and try to make it 3D, try to give it depth? It has to do with light, has to do with texture, has to do with depth of field, their surroundings. Look at this one right here. Here's a goose. Our focal point is the eye. It's not the beak, even though the beak would appear to be closest to us. You can see the beak's a little bit fuzzy. Here's a neat photo of a duck flying off of water, probably at night or early in the morning. We got the stars reflecting off the water, or those could be street lights. How about this one right here? That picture can tell a story. Here's a little bit near and dear to my heart, mixing console. Look at that right there. That dude can tell a lot of stories right there. So let's go back to the song "And God Cries." So when I first started to hear this song, and what Brother Jason was showing me was there's depth, there's texture, there's dynamics. Not everything has to be right here in front of your face. You can have some spatial separation through left and right. You can do left, center, right. You can have depth. Not everything has to be at the same volume. And so again, highlighted is the modified suspension or the embellished suspension of what the alto was doing. So let's take that same principle and now let's do something with that. Those notes are there. The author, the composer, or the arranger obviously put them in there. So let's highlight those. Let's do something with it. Let's have fun with it. Let's not just say everything has to be at the same volume all the time, or we have the lead up real loud and you don't hear what everything else is doing. When everything is mixed properly, it starts to blend together as one voice. So, buckle your seatbelts. Here is what goes through my mind when I hear music.
Up too high, and God cried, Jesus is alive, Son of God is risen, death is crucified, the grave could not contain him, no stone could hold too high, and God cried, God cried, and God cried, Jesus is alive.
How can you take something that's on a piece of paper and make it three-dimensional? Give it texture, give it depth, give it passion, give it energy. First of all, you have to have a singer and a musician that's doing that on that end. But what a sound man can really hinder is weeks and weeks and weeks of preparation to where the musicians, the singers, the preachers, they're passionate about their craft. They're giving it all that they have. And then a sound man that is ill-prepared or doesn't understand it can take that and just destroy hours and hours and hours of effort. Or on the other hand, a sound man or sound woman, sound technician, can very uniquely apply their personality. They can bring energy, they can bring life, they can bring passion to that by understanding the art of mixing. So it was 17 years ago this summer that I first started to learn the art of mixing. Up until that point, I was more focused on everything trying to be the same volume. Okay, I can equally hear everybody. Well, that's not necessarily the case. We have our focal point, we have our lead. So it was that day, that point where I started to learn there's something deeper, there's something richer that I need to be getting. Something a little bit more passionate that I need to understand about. I'm not just unmuting microphones and muting microphones. I'm playing an instrument too. The mixing console is my instrument, just like the piano would be somebody else's instrument. Just like the microphone would be a singer's instrument. And their vocal folds or vocal cords, that would be their instrument. So if you can get that, if you can pass that along to your sound technicians, that this is an instrument, it's very hands-on. Take it, be passionate about it, put your heart into it, put your energy, put your life into it, learn it, master it, constantly push yourself to learn new things, to try new things. I got a couple guys at Southwest. One of them's back there on the camera, and I got another one that's a piano player. Those two men are constantly pushing me to step it up, to try something new, or to take my craft and what I think is the best I can do and challenge me to think about it maybe a little bit differently. Again, it's not just, it has to be this way, and you're right, and if you're doing it this way, you're wrong. There's a bunch of different avenues that you can all arrive to have a nice, beautiful blend. So think about this three-dimensional. When you start listening to music, start thinking about all the different nuances that are going on. Think about the harmonics of the song or the non-chord tones. You don't necessarily have to know what everything is or even know the names or even know how to pronounce them, but just realize that they're there. They're there, and you can embellish it, you can enhance it, just like we've taken this room and we've enhanced a room that could be really boring. Next thing I want to do in here, I want to sheetrock the walls. I want to add some wood columns, some side lights in here. Think about what that would do to this room. If we put in some fresh brown carpet, that would really change the feel, change the color tone of this room. So be passionate. Think about this three-dimensional. I'm not the only one that thought about this three-dimensional, because a year later, Jason Jett married that alto. He was thinking three-dimensional as well. And he now has an awesome son, and he has 3 beautiful kids, and he has Lacey. That's a joke. He has 5 kids, 4 girls and a boy. So he was thinking about it three-dimensional as well. 2 years later, I take his lead, and I marry an alto as well. So I'm thinking about things three-dimensional as well. So our next piece, I want to see if these 2 instruments can talk to you. Now we're going to do, in a few minutes, we're going to switch to another screen, and you're going to see the mixing console up on the screen. We're using a digital mixing console, so that way we can mirror it and we can bring it up on the screen, and then also we can do playbacks, do multi-channel playbacks. So what we just talked about being passionate about your craft, being passionate about music, learning how to enhance music, I want you just to listen to this. Now the first 2 channels right here, channel 1 and 2, you can see it's labeled piano. So we got 2 mics on the piano, so the piano would be recorded in stereo. Here's our violin, channel 3. So that's all I'm using, channels 2 and 3 and channel 1, not necessarily in that order. Hold on just a minute. What'd you hear? What'd you hear, Caleb?
It went by when the, I'm probably gonna say this wrong. When the piano kind of took over, you take the violin down a little bit, and then they'd switch back and forth between whichever one was the focal point, I guess would be, whichever one was the focal point. Then a couple of times they were both playing about the same, so there wasn't really a lead at that point. They just kind of leveled, I guess you would say. They leveled it at one point, and then pick up and go. Does that make any sense?
Brother, is it Eddie? Brother Eddie?
Yeah. It almost seemed like to me at certain times you were in conflict with the way the people were playing the song. They were controlling their own volumes. When the piano needed to back off, they would back off, and the violin would increase. And you could either enhance that, or you could be in conflict with it. And almost at sometimes it seemed like by controlling the volume on the master, you were actually in conflict with what they were trying to do themselves.
I'm putting my style, my mix, my ears, and I'm playing this as if this was an instrument. Did it sound like at one point the violin was in a cave? Almost sound like with the reverb, like this grand piano's on a big concert stage. Did you just hear how majestic the sound was, how big, how bold it was? Let's go back and do this again, Jonathan. We're going to do it with a little twist, though, this time. That was recorded in our gymnasium at Southwest Baptist Church using our regular mics that we would use for our house PA. I wanted to show you that so you realize sound like this is not out of reach. It's not unattainable. Here's the 4 points. The rights of the sound man. Write this down. The first right of the sound man is the right microphone. Microphone or mic. To learn the art of mixing, to capture that sound, you have to have the right mic in the right place. And again, we're going to talk about more in depth in the afternoon session. So our first right is the right microphone. The second right is the right EQ, equalization. Again, if I'm unprepared for this special, I can damage beyond repair what these two people put hours and hours and hours into. The third right is going to be the right volume. As a sound man, I hate dynamics because I'm trying to maintain stuff to where everybody can hear everything. So Brother Eddie, you're talking about how I was in some ways fighting what they were doing. They're going to be putting dynamics in there. I'm trying to squash the dynamics down a little bit so I can help maintain an overall volume because I got air conditioning, I got people moving around, coughing, I have the room noise that I have to punch through, and I want to be able to make sure everybody can focus on that lead. So I'm going to be manipulating the dynamics as well. My wife and I go back and forth on that. She loves dynamics. I do too, but I try to squash them down.
Amen.
The last right of your sound man. So the first one is the right mic. Second one is the right EQ. The third one is the right volume. The fourth right is at the right time. Right mic, right EQ, right volume, at the right time. Those are what we're going to focus on in our afternoon session. The 4 rights of a sound man. It's not the right to a fair trial. It's not the right to counsel. It's not the right to remain silent. It's not that at all. The 4 rights of the sound man is the right microphone, the right EQ, the right volume, at the right time. You heard a song. You heard it twice. What I believe, I use the right mic, the right EQ, the right volume at the right time. At the beginning of that song, you want that commanding presence of that piano. Boom! You want it just to arrest your attention, to suck you in. If I started that way too low, that wouldn't have that effect. That wouldn't have that arresting attention just like that. There are spots where the violin was piercing or could be piercing, so I brought it down. There are some spots where I wanted that piano to have more of the predominance, so I brought that up. That was recorded in a gymnasium using regular equipment. But our first listen at that, you would have probably thought that was done in a studio or on a sound stage or at a concert. But that was in the gymnasium that we had church at last night. That blows my mind. It's phenomenal that we captured that sound doing that. I want to close with this right here. We've got about 3 minutes left. I don't want you gentlemen to walk away from this session or any of the sessions today and tomorrow and say, man, that's good information, but it only works for a big church. That only works there. We can't take it here. If you leave the MMRI with that in your mind, I think that will be not a good thing. I'm trying to say it kindly. There's techniques, there's principles here that you can take and you can apply. The right mic, the right EQ, the right volume at the right time. And in this afternoon session, we're going to go into depth. I'm going to show you the mics that I used on the piano. I'm going to show you the mics that I used on the violin and how I did all that. But this could be duplicated in your ministry. Now at Southwest Baptist Church, we've had years and years and years of leadership that have just pushed us to take it to the next level, to take it to the next level. I've done the sound there for 17 years, so I've been in that environment for 17 years. It's constantly, what can we do to be a one step better? What's our best? What's our all? What are we laying out on the field? Are we laying our all, or are we just, yeah, whatever, this is good enough for now? Are we happy with status quo, or are we pushing ourselves to do the very best that we can? You can do that in your ministry. Wherever you're serving the Lord, you can do that. And you know what? You may not see the results of what we just heard. You may not see the results in your lifetime. But how awesome would that be if you planted the seed and if you started that environment of growing that, so then the next person that comes in has that and just can carry on and grow. And then the next person that steps in can grow and grow. You don't have to have a big church to do stuff like that. These speakers are about $380 each. So under $1,000, I was shaking your insides with the piano. The only reason why we have this fancy console here is so I can remix and so we can show up on the TV what I'm doing. That's the only reason why that's there. You could do that in your ministry. You could have an influence with your sound men, your sound women, your singers, your instrumentalists. If you got the passion and said, man, we're going to do this, we're going to take it up a notch. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to change the mindset, but we're going to do sound checks. We're going to push ourselves to make sure we're singing in pitch or in tune. We're going to work with our sound man so they're not back there like this, but they're back there like this. This is an instrument, and make sure they're passionate about their craft. You could walk away and you could start to apply principles like that in your ministry if you're not already. The piano player and the violin player, they're 24. The gentleman that did the 3D graphics of that sheet music, he's in the back. He's 24. I remember when Trevor and Anna, the piano player and the violin player, when they came to Southwest Baptist Church. Trevor was about 9. So he didn't come as a concert pianist. Anna was 15 when she came. She didn't come with that level or that quality. But they were put in that environment that they pushed themselves. And they're around people that constantly push themselves. Those 2 people there that you saw on the screen, plus Jonathan in the back, those are 3 people at Southwest Baptist Church that push me to do a better job. So we don't need aged singers. We don't need these people that have been doing this for years and years and years. We just need that heart. And I think you men could be a catalyst for growing that up in your ministries and your churches. So this afternoon, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into the art or applying the art of mixing.